Like again, folks, welcome back to Brew Time. First off, apologies for me for the delay in between the last episode and this one. Folks, during the year, I'm away doing tours with Chicken Strips, chickenstrips.co.uk, and it creates havoc with vid production and the podcast production at times. So that's why sometimes there's a week or two delay in between episodes. My apologies for that. Can't be helped, sadly. Folks, this episode, I'm chatting with Luisa Hendry, the Scottish geologist. She's fascinating. She makes geology come alive. She did this in the cafe of her gym, so there is a wee bit of background noise every now and then. The audio isn't fantastic in places, but bear with it, please. Persevere, folks, because she really does make this whole topic of geology just fascinating, and she makes it come alive. Her enthusiasm just oozes out. So I hope you enjoy episode 159, Luisa Hendry.
Oh,
Are you all right just to crack on, or do you want to have a wee chat first?
No, I'm quite happy just like having a, crack on. Just
right,
whatever.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Right, folks, welcome back to Brew Time. Here's Luisa Hendry, the Scottish geologist. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm brilliant. Folks, if you're watching this or if you're listening, you might hear a wee bit of noise in the background. Louisa's in the gym at the moment.
Yeah, sorry about that.
I think that's about the closest I'm ever going to get to a gym, I'll tell you that. Right, for people who don't know who you are, who's Luisa Hendry? What's the Scottish geologist? What's it all about?
Okay, so basically, I'm kind of now known as that girl that makes videos about rocks, and you're thinking, rocks? What can be so interesting about rocks? Well, I'm going to tell you, right, because rocks can be interesting. So a year and a half ago, maybe 20 months ago now, I decided that there's not enough out there. I'm a geologist, I have a degree in geology, right? I felt like there's not enough out there online that talks about rocks, and I decided to start making these videos, and they all of a sudden just started going viral, and I was just like, what the hell is going on here? What the fuck? Do people like rocks? Is it the way that I deliver it? And, it just kind of took off from there. And I basically now, I'm known as Scottish geologist. I've got over 420,000 people that follow me across all of my social medias, and all I do is talk about rocks. So, that's probably, to put it into basic terms, that's probably, who Scottish geologist is. It's basically me.
I mean, it seems like quite a meteoric rise that you've had. I mean, I think you first popped up on my socials sort of summer last year, maybe.
Yeah, it probably was. And
it just felt like bang! All of a sudden, you were like an Instagram, TikTok superstar. All of a sudden,
it was mental. It went from like on Instagram last April, like 2023, it was like I had 300 followers, and then June I had 100,000, and then I'm like, what the hell's going on here? I basically gained 100,000 followers in like 2 months, and I'm like, what?
Wow.
Like I didn't even aim for that or want that. Like, not that I didn't want it, I just was quite happy with how it was going and how it just progressed and how it built into what it's built into. It's it's madness, isn't it?
It's crazy. I mean, yeah, I've never experienced that sudden. I mean, I've been doing like YouTube and stuff for 14 years now, and it's been a real gradual sort of build for me.
Yeah,
I've never had that. That big boom. Yeah, big growth, sudden growth like that. I've had a couple of vids that have done reasonably well for me, but nothing like that. What's it like? No. What's it like to experience that?
It's mental, and I just lost track. But I've got the type of mentality where I don't really care and I don't give a fuck about it. Like, I mean, I love that I'm doing what I'm doing, but I don't care about what people say about me online, because I do get. I mean, there's trolls and everything. Like, it doesn't matter what you do. There's always going to be people commenting on it, being like, "I don't like this," or "Oh my god, what's that girl on? Is she on meth or something like that?" Like, like there's or "Look at her, I fancy her," and people just don't have control over what they say sometimes over social media. But I just don't get caught up in it. I just had the kind of mentality where it kind of blew up that quickly that I was just kind of like, in my wee la la land, as I usually am.
Aye.
and it just, I was quite happy with obviously it growing. like, and getting the message out there. Because I originally started it because I felt like there wasn't enough out there, but I also felt like there was a lack of people going to study geology nowadays. And the reason is because most people are going to their phone, you know, like most people are on their phone scrolling, swiping through social media or whatever. And I just felt like, right, there's a market here for something. So let's start let's start making these videos and let's make them interesting and let's make them as well understandable, even though I'm Scottish. And like, you'd think, how can you make a Scottish accent understandable? I think it's just the way that I approached it and the way that I do it that's kind of drawing people in.
Mm-hmm.
And it is madness. It's just growing arms and legs, you know.
And you've just recently gone full time at this as well, haven't you?
I have, yeah. I quit. Well, not quit. I left on good terms. Mm-hmm. Like it was something that I think was coming for the last 6 months because, I mean, at the beginning, once my page started growing and then I started expanding into different things like Facebook and that, like, although I really need to do work on my YouTube, like, because my videos are shorter, it's different, like, for YouTube. But yeah, once I started growing this following, I kind of realised, oh, well, I can monetize this. And then I started my own tour company as well, my Geology tour company. And once I kind of looked into everything and looked at all the figures and stuff, I was like, well, why would I not do this full time? And it's not just that, like there's other things that I've wanted to do for a while over the last 6 months, like start writing books and stuff, and do all that kind of like stuff as well, like, and do geology talks, and it's led to opportunities that I never thought I'd get. Like, I mean, I'd love to be on the TV eventually as a TV presenter, but the TV industry is quite difficult to get into, and it will take time. But you never know what's around the door, like, you know, you never know what's like around the corner. Like, absolutely, that could be my next thing. Like, it might not be. Like, there's loads of stuff I can do with it. So I just thought, you know what, I'm quite like I've kind of reached where I want to be in my career. Because I had worked in engineering geology for 9 years, and I kind of got to the point where I was like, right, where do I want to go next with this? Do I really want to go anywhere? No, like, I think I'm done. Like, and I sat down with them and explained, you know, how I felt, and they were very supportive. And then they were like, well, we understand. Like, we knew that you're doing so well for yourself, doing all the other stuff, that we knew it was coming, really. And I was like, all right, okay. But I mean, most people kept saying to me, when are you going to quit your job and do this full time? And I'm like, oh, no, I'm not going to quit my job. And then I was like, yeah, let's do it. So
there's so many. Sorry to interrupt.
Oh no, it's fine.
Sorry, on you go. There's so many people. I was of the same mentality as you. You know, I used to be a copper in London. I was a bobby in London. I never ever thought I would do this full time. You know, it's just you know what? No, don't be daft. You know, you got a mortgage to cover, haven't you, and bills to pay, and I'll never do that. And then my hand just sort of kind of got forced one day, and you know, you just make that decision, don't you? You go for it, and there's so many people. This podcast is all about people that follow my sort of tagline of live your life. You know, they go for it, whatever it is. And everyone has, well, most people seem to have that similar story where they just hit this point in life where they go, do you know what, bugger it, I'm going to go for it. Let's just go. Got to be in it to win it, haven't you? So.
Oh, definitely, I agree. Like it's definitely the situation that I was kind of put in recently. I just feel so much better. I feel like this is what I was supposed to be doing. Aye. Like, so I'm the same.
It comes with its own pressures, though. You know, I've been doing this, like, God, I've been doing this full time now since COVID. Literally, I resigned about a month before COVID, so that's four years now I've been doing it, and it's a proper roller coaster. But you're in charge of it now. You know, you're at the helm steering it.
You're the one that needs to do it. That's what I've realised as well over the last 2 months. Because at first I took a little break from work because I had basically just burnt myself out because I was doing, you know, working an 8 till 5 job and then like going home at night and doing all the social media stuff, and at the weekends trying to fit everything in. And it did burn me out eventually, and I was just like, oh man, like I need to take some time off. So I took like a bit of time off before I actually, like, you know, started getting into like a little bit of structure again. Like I've struggled a wee bit, but we're getting there. Like, so it is, I'm at the steering wheel. I'm the one that's in control now of how well my content does. Like, you know, because obviously, I mean, Instagram's crap. Like, the only way that you can earn money on Instagram's like through like subscriptions and if people subscribe to your profile. But like Facebook and that, I've been learning, and TikTok, like I've been learning how to steer it myself in a way where it can bring in some money. I'm obviously doing my tours as well. I do geology talks. Like I'm starting to think about doing workshops. There's obviously the book that I want to, well, I've already started writing one of them, but there's loads of books, and I've been approached by publishers and stuff. And I'm thinking, wow, this is working, you know, like this is really good. So yeah, like we'll see where it goes. Like obviously it'll take a bit of time, and as you say, it'll go up and down. But aye, we'll get there eventually.
So
I
what
still
what
kind of go
got
above
you?
left. Sorry,
I'm the same. You know, it's just like
you
you
like
sort of
what?
pinch yourself. Yeah, it's like,
Like,
is this life now? Is this what I do?
it's honestly mental. Aye.
So
Sorry, on you go.
what got you into geology? How did your love of rock start then?
Oh, it's a bit mental because I didn't actually know that I wanted to be a geologist. I was in my fifth year at school.
Huh.
And that's like a little bit late on when you're at school, you know, because usually you pick all your subjects that
Aye.
are supposed to tie in with your career. But I basically, when I was growing up in the 90s, used to go down the beach, collect rocks, used to try smash them open with my dad's hammer from his toolkit, used to put rocks in my pocket and forget about them. And then my mum wouldn't check my pockets and our washing machine would die. Eh, so basically, always had this mad interest in rocks and how you could find different types of rocks down the beach. And I'd always think that you could smash them open and find crystals. So it probably started with that. And also the really bad geology movies from the 90s. Like there was one called Volcano with Tommy Lee Jones in it.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't know if you remember that one. And then there was
yeah.
Dante's Peak, and then there was one called The Core. I watched them and I used to be like, oh, this is cool. It's about the Earth. And I always loved the documentaries as well at that point in time. But it wasn't until my fifth year at school. I always thought, like, okay, I'll do something that I'm good at. And I was very creative in school. Like, I liked music, I liked art, like, I liked making clothes, fashion, and design. So I wanted to be a fashion designer
Did
until
you?
I was in my fifth year, yeah. And I went to a university open day, and my first ever boyfriend at the time, he was like, you need to like do something else. You know, fashion design is really hard to get into. And I'm looking about and I'm like, right, okay, so University of Glasgow, and I'm cutting about like the room with all the stalls, and I see this stall and it has rocks on it. It's got a picture of a volcano behind it, and it's like it says earth science, and that's basically what my degree is in. It's earth science, which is geology, and I'm looking
Uh-huh.
at it like, what's that? Oh my god, I want to go do this. And I went up and they were talking away to me, but I didn't have the grades. And this is why I say to people, it does not matter what you get in school. Like you can go and leave school with no hires at all or nothing related to the subject that you want to actually do. Continue your career or like study at uni. Like it does not matter what you get, like because there's always other ways in. So when I looked into it, I was like, right, okay, I've not got the hires. I won't get the hires like that I need because I need two science subjects and I've only got one, and that was geography. I always loved geography as well, but the
Uh-huh.
physical side of geography. And I thought, like, okay, what else can I do? Like, I'll look at the sheet and see what the entry requirements are. And I noticed you could go do a HNC and they would let you in with a HNC, which is something you could do at college. So I went and done that first. And I did a HNC in applied sciences, which is completely unrelated to geology. It's more biology, chemistry, as applied sciences is kind of like a mixture of everything. I did that, and that got me into uni. And then I went to the University of Glasgow. Actually was there for 5 years because in my second year I drank too much and went out a lot, like, and
I did
failed a
exactly the
subject in
same.
second year.
Yeah, yeah.
But I didn't give up. I kept going, and I've always say that to people. And I've always had this mentality: it does not matter like what
Right.
you get. Like, just keep going. If you want to be something and do something that you're passionate about, don't let these, it's all learning curves in life. Don't let it stop you from doing
Mm.
like what you want to do. And I've always had that kind of mentality. So even though I failed second year because I failed one subject, I still repeated that subject and still, continued the uni, and then eventually got my degree. And I started working in 2000 and I graduated in 2015 and started working straight away as soon as I was out of uni. I didn't really know what I was going to do with my degree, but worked in the engineering geology sector, the geotech industry, which involves like basically working on site and drilling boreholes for like,
Mhm.
projects where they were going to build a road, a railway, a bridge.
Aye.
They'd have to have that understanding of what was on the ground to know what was going on so that they knew how to design these things. So I did that and I worked my way up quite quickly for the last 9 years and made a career out of it. I was listed this year as one of the top 20 women in what I do, as well as obviously all the other stuff that I'm doing on the side too.
Yeah.
That's probably contributed towards it as well. But I like, it's madness to think now, because I always wanted to be in documentaries. Even when I was at uni, I always thought, well, I'd love to present and be the person that talks about these rocks and in a documentary, like, but and that's why I think I started doing what I do now
Yeah.
as well. Like, it's just kind of led into that. So, it's been a story, like an interesting story. But that's how I got into it.
This week, we are supported by Ultimate Addons. Ultimate Addons are the premium manufacturer of mobile phone and action camera mounting solutions for motorcycles. With a kit, you know all the blurb. I read this out every week, folks. Folks, Ultimate Addons, they make phone cases, action camera mounts, loads of things like that. Auxiliary battery charger, charging ports that you put into the power points in your bike. They do all this sort of stuff. Their phone cases, they're shockproof, they're waterproof, they're dustproof. They mean that you can still use the phone as a phone. You can still use the camera on your phone, everything like that. They don't get affected by any vibration from your bike. They're great bits of kit. I've been using them since about 2018. I've had them on all of my bikes. Whenever I take a bike out to do a review, it's always an Ultimate Addons case that is on there. And I use that teamed up with Kalimoto as my navigation when I'm riding. No issues at all with any of the cameras on any of my phones since like 2018, maybe even 2017. Great bits of kit, folks. If you head to ultimateaddons.com and you use the code TeapotOne, all one word, all written out, TeapotOne, with the number 10, TeapotOne 10, then you can get 10% off. So a huge thanks to Ultimate Addons for their ongoing and continued support. I did civil engineering at Strathclyde Uni. So, but I did my first year. I went there to do mechanical engineering, but a bit like you, I had a wee bit too much of a good time in my first year. So they basically said you either reset first year or change courses, but you can't continue, the current path. So I was like, oh, I need to change to something else because I just wasn't finding mechanical engineering that interesting. No. And for some reason, I've got no idea where it came from, but I was just like, I'll do civil engineering. So I went into like designing bridges and, all roads and all that.
Aye.
But part of that course was geology. And I really enjoyed it. Like I'd never even thought about any of this before.
That's it.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that part of it.
Feet.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that and like I remember we had to do fluid mechanics. Like studying like how rivers and floods and all those things affect foundations and stuff. I really enjoyed all that, and it had never been on my radar growing up and all through school. None of that. But yeah, I got my degree in civil engineering and joined the old bill. I don't know how that happened, but.
And then worked down in London for it.
Yeah, and then ended up in London. Yeah, that's a long old story.
What the hell am I doing down here?
Yeah, I know, yeah. I often ask myself that now. Every time I go back home to Scotland, I'm like, what am I doing down in the southeast of England? Jesus. Anyway, right, the way things work here is I chuck out on my socials and I have a Patreon following as well. So I chuck stuff out there and say, right, the next guest on the podcast is this. What questions have you got? So everyone has an opportunity to leave some questions. You're quite a hit with people. I have a lot of questions. How long do you have?
I just I don't know until like when did we start this? 5:30. Probably 7:30. Yeah.
Okay, right. We'll have to go quick fire. Yeah. We'll have to go quick fire through.
I'll try answer them.
Right,
I don't know everything.
So first off, we'll head across to the clan over on Patreon. So it's patreon.com/TeapotOne. First one, Mark Paskin. Hi both, hope you're both well. I have a mild case of TV gold fever. I watch all the Discovery Channel shows on mining for it in various different ways, and I have a metal detector which I've used in the Australian goldfields without any luck. I was wondering if you've ever chased the gold stuff and whether this was an interest to you, and have you had any luck?
I've never actually chased gold, but I've held it and seen it, and it's quite, heavy and quite cool to look at. And I've learnt about how it's formed. But people always ask me this because there's gold in the Scottish Highlands. There is gold there.
I was going to ask.
And there's gold running through the veins, and also there's gold like in Lead Hills as well, which is south, like in the Southern Uplands, like section of like Scotland, because Scotland's divided into different like geological terrains, like, and each of those terrains is basically got its own geological history. But yeah, in the Highlands of Scotland, there's meant to be gold, but it's whether or not it's economical to actually get it out. But I've never been gold panning. Gold to me is, it's just another like mineral. Well, gold's actually an element on the periodic table, but for me, it's just another mineral to me. Like, so I've never had that big interest in, wanting to look for it or find it.
Yeah, because it's a topical thing at the moment, isn't it? Gold in Scotland.
It is, yeah. I mean, they recently shut down that mine that was north of Tyndrum because it didn't have enough investment. The gold's there, but you need the investment first, the money, to put into the actual, the staff, the work in their machinery, and they were chasing this vein, but the money dried up and they had to shut it because it wasn't, they didn't have the money to, economical. So, and then there's talk of another one as well, like in the Highlands. So I think they're doing like exploration all over the place, and they know that there's gold there. Couldn't tell you exactly, but there is gold there. But that's it really. That's all I could tell you. But
you imagine if they find that, geez, it'll be like the oil all over again, won't it? Sheesh.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Right, cheers for that, Mark. Next one, Dave Hemmings. Hiya to you both. Here's a question that's not relevant, but it's different. What's the first movie that you ever went to see at the cinema?
Oh my goodness. Now that's a throwback.
Yeah.
I don't even know you know that. Oh.
I think I remember mine. The Fox and the Hound. Do you remember? Was it a Disney cartoon?
Oh, that's a Disney cartoon. It makes me cry.
Yeah, I remember I bawled my eyes out. I think I was about 5 and I bawled my eyes out.
I honestly can't remember being a wee girl and the first time I went to the cinema. That's madness. I remember seeing The Grinch. So it might have been The Grinch. Because that came out in like the 2000s or something like that.
Ah, it did, yeah,
but I honestly cannot remember what my first ever movie was. But I used to go to this, my dad would take us to the showcase in Linwood. I don't know if you ever went there. And we would go every so often, like just to see whatever movies were out. And he wouldn't let us buy sweeties. He was like, "No, you're not allowed to anything." We had to sneak sweeties in because he was cheap, the cheapest fuck. So we had to sneak like all these sweeties in a bag, and I was like, "It's not the same." But now when I go to the cinema, I'll take the piss and I'll get a slushie, I'll get popcorn, I'll get sweeties. Like honestly. Brilliant. I love the cinema.
Pick a mix. No fudge though. Pick a mix.
No.
Too heavy. Too heavy.
Yeah, I think it was The Grinch. It must have been The Grinch. I remember seeing The Grinch.
Gotcha. What about the last film? What was the last film you went and saw?
I went to go see that new Alien film and I absolutely shat myself. It was so scary. Because I've never actually seen the original Alien movies.
What?
I've only ever seen, I know, that's what my partner was saying. He was like, "Have you not seen these before?" And I'm like, "Well, why would they're from like the 70s, 80s. So I know.
The classics.
I know. I watched Prometheus though, which is that's like an alien movie, isn't it? And I watched that one. But I watched this. We watched it like a few weeks ago, and I'm sitting there like, holy shit! I kept closing my eyes because I just didn't like the jumpy bits with the aliens popping out, and I was like, "Oh my god, man, this is ridiculous."
I'm not good with horror.
And he's like, "So you want to leave?" I was like, "No, I'm fine. I just want to know what happens." And he's like, "Are you sure? Do you want to leave the cinema?" And I'm just like, "No, it's okay." And I'm sitting there like, I wish I could leave. I just want to be nice. But we have one of those unlimited cards, like both of us. So we go to the cinema, like, regularly. But that was the last thing I seen.
Gotcha.
So,
God, I haven't been in years. Can't remember the last thing I saw. Can't remember. Sheesh.
Well, that's it. Like when COVID happened, like the cinema just wasn't open on that,
I know. Aye. And then I discovered Netflix and I said, no need to leave the house anymore.
No.
Next one, Simon Beale. Hi to you both. To Louisa, I'm fortunate to live on the Jurassic Coast and knew Professor Dennis Brunsden, a well-known and respected geomorphologist. What is the difference between geology and geomorphology? Wow.
So geology is more like talking about the rocks, the rock types, or environments that were deposited in, like their formation. And I would say that geomorphology is like more to do with like how things are shaped. Like when you look at a mountain, like lies it like that, and like how it was morphed, like by whatever processes, like took place whenever, like in geological time, if that makes sense. That's how I would explain it. I only ever did a subject in geomorphology when I was at uni. It was just one like course week, like one mini course. And all I can remember was learning about that, or learning about how the forces, like Earth's forces, tectonic plates, could like have an impact on like the geomorphology. But I would say it's definitely just how these processes, geological processes, shape the Earth that we see today. So, aye. But again, I'm not 100% sure on that.
I'll take your word on that, Louisa, because I'd never even heard of geomorphology before.
Oh, there's hundreds of them. See, when you do a degree in geology, it's not just geology, it's like geomorphology, geophysics, like economic minerals, like petrology. which is more like looking at rocks under the microscope and stuff, like igneous and metamorphic petrology, stratigraphy, which is to do with sedimentary layers, seismology. Like, honestly, it's mental. There's like so many different subjects that you go into. It's not just geology, it's not just a rock, this is a rock. There's so much more into it. Like, like, oh, it's madness. I can't even remember half the courses that I did. You know that? There was another one.
You can see how passionate you are about all of this when you start talking about it. Wow, it's crazy.
I'm just brilliant. Like, look at these rocks. But I don't know everything, that's the thing. I've not like got a PhD, but no one knows everything. See, when it comes to even their own degree, and geology is such a complicated subject that sometimes I get asked questions when I'm on my tours or if I do a talk in geology. I'm just like, I'm just going to look into that for you, right? Because I don't know the answer to it right now, but I'm going to look into it and then I'll tell you the answer.
But that's good though, isn't it? I don't think you should ever be 100% comfortable and confident that you know everything about whatever your subject is, because you're not open to learning anymore then, are you?
No, definitely not. You're definitely right in saying that. But yeah.
Right. Cheers to that one, Simon. Next one, Alantino Rossi. Evening, folks. Hope you're both well. Louisa, are your pups Alaskan Malamutes? If so, are they as stubborn and entitled as mine are?
My husband, so I've got 4 dogs. Yeah. A lot of people only think I have the one, which is Yuda, because she appears in my videos the most.
She's the one you're shouting at all the time.
I know, I'm like, Yuda, come here. She's like, I'm sorry, Mum. So I've got a Siberian Husky, which is Skye. Her name's Skye. She's named after the Isle of Skye in Scotland because it's one of my favourite places to go. She's so stubborn and she's so huffy. She's like a huffy husky, like all the time. Like she just like can't be bothered with life. Like she just cuts about the place. Like, I hate this place, fuck's sake. And looks at the others like they're stupid. But she's the alpha. She's the main lead of the pack, and she was the first one there. So she was quite a spoiled wee girl, a spoiled Wayne when she was a pup. And then we got 2 more, which was Tuluk and Yura. Like, so Tuluk's the boy. Tuluk, his name means warrior, and Yura is a girl. They're both brother and sister, but they don't look like anything like each other. But they're both Utenagans or Utonagans, however you want to pronounce it. Like, and a Utenagan is like a crossbreed between a husky, Malamute, German Shepherd, Czechoslovakian wolf dog, like a variety of different breeds that came out in the 80s. And they're very rare, like, to be honest, like not a lot of people have heard of them, but that's what they are. But they're really, it kind of look like a Northern Inuit or like a Damascan. So Yura's, she's got her beautiful features. She's like more like, looks like a bear. And she's the biggest. Yura is chunky. Not chunky. She's 42 kilos. She's a big dog.
Jeez, really?
Like, and so I can't lift her anymore. I'm just like, oh my God. And then the boy's 39 kilos. And then Sky's only 32 kilos. And then my last pup, who's Tala. Tala is basically the Czechoslovakian wolf dog that we have. Like, and she's pretty curious all the time, doesn't go near people, she hates people. Like, not hates them as in she would hurt them, she just hates them as in she doesn't want to socialise with them. She's just like, who the hell is that? Get away from me. Her name's Tala. Tala means wolf. I forgot Yura's name means one who is beautiful. And they're like kind of Native American language because it was kind of similar to the breed. So 4 of them. And that's what breed they are. And they're good dogs. They're a good wee pack.
Do you take them out with you all the time, or is it just
sometimes I'll take 2, sometimes I'll take 1, sometimes I'll take 4. Right. And it's funny when I do take 4 of them out, they're all running about around me because I did a video at Christmas up at Glencoe again, and I had all of them with me. And I set the camera, and then I was standing on this rock, and I started talking. And all you see is like they just swang by me, and they nearly hit the camera, and I was like, "Oh my God!" Like, because they just run about, but they're very well behaved, and I take them like across the Highlands with me when I do go on adventures. But it could be 2, it could be 4, it could be 1. Wow. It just depends. But I share the dogs with my ex, so he gets them half of the time. It's like having custody of a child, but it's 4 dogs, so he gets them half of the time, and I get them the other half of the time. Like, so, if for instance I'm going on an adventure and he's going to take them, I'll usually ask, "Can I take you there?" Because Yura's the one that's the most obedient one, and she's always the one that appears in the videos, but she is. I mean, sometimes she can be sneaky, and it's just dead funny because I'll be like, "Yura, where you going? Yura, come here." And people just like Yura. They're like, "Oh, when are you going to do Yura plushies?" And I'm like, "Plushies?" As in, we toys review that. I'm like, oh, when am I going to get the chance to do that? I still haven't even sorted out my own merchandise
I was
yet.
going to say, it's a merch line, that, yeah.
I know. So
we're also supported by the Influencer Store. The Influencer Store helps you build your brand big or small, providing you with a solution and apparel. We help you to increase your fan base while supporting you with starting your own influencer clothing line with nothing more than just an idea or design, and there are no hidden costs. For more info, come check us out at theinfluencerstore.co.uk or drop us an email at online@influencerstore.co.uk for more information. Now, the Influencer Store, they do all my merch over at TeapotOne and for Brewtime. So if you head to teapotone.com or theinfluencerstore.co.uk, go to the TeapotOne section. If you buy any of my merch, you're helping to support the channel and the podcast. So a huge thank you from me to you in advance, and a big thanks to the Influencer Store for their ongoing support. Now, a big shout out to all of you, everybody who's listening or watching the podcast. When you like the vids, when you share, if you comment, if you leave a rating on the audio podcast, either on Spotify or on Apple Podcast or whatever platform you're listening to, wherever it is, if you rate the podcast, if you share it with people, you really do help to build the audience, to get it picked up by algorithms and get it promoted out there. So a huge thank you from me. You've helped build this podcast to one of the top 5 motorcycle podcasts out there. And those of you over in the clan on Patreon, so it's patreon.com/TeapotOne, you are a special, special bunch of people. I could not do this full time without your help. So a huge, huge heartfelt thank you from me. If you fancy checking that out, folks, if you fancy being part of the clan and coming on some of the weekend rides that we do, then head to patreon.com/TeapotOne and see if there's anything that takes your fancy. Let's get back to the podcast. Right, cheers for that one, Alan. Next one, 2Bob Rocket. Good evening. I love the scenery on Skye, particularly the views north of Portree, where the land has heaved up. What are the most significant geological formations in Scotland and their age? Wow.
Well, Skye has got one of the most dramatic landscapes. Like, as you've said, it's fascinating and beautiful to see that. So, like, even north of like Portree, like all those like layers of rock that you're seeing that are tilted, and then you've got the old Manastor that's formed, like, which is an old landslide. Those are all made up of like lavas, like that have spewed out 60 odd million years ago, like when you had the initial opening of the Atlantic Ocean, which is, you know, you see those rocks and you think, well, this must have looked like something like similar to what Iceland looks like now with all of the eruptions going on. There must be lava spewing out everywhere. Like, I think it's madness to like look at the rock record and think that that used to be that. Like, but yeah, Skye is one of the most beautiful places you can go, especially the Coolin Mountains, because there's 2 types of different mountains on Skye. Like, and when you look at them, there's obviously the red hills of Skye, like the granitic, like the granite hills, and then you've got the black Coolins, which are like they're made of gabbro. And it's just interesting to know about how like one set of mountains is so jaggy, and the reason it's jaggy is because it's made of gabbro, and gabbro's, it weathers differently when it's exposed at the surface, and when granite like it weathers, it's a lot smoother, forming these smooth hills that you see. Like, so that's probably another place that you, like, I would say was amazing. Like, and that's again 60 odd million years old. But then when you get up into the Northwest Highlands, you have obviously the oldest rocks in Scotland that you can find, like, situated like the coast. Oh, it's my favourite place.
Sutherland, just
like,
love it.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
Oh,
like,
beautiful.
And you get like your Luisa Hendry complex, which is up to 3 billion years old, and you're like, and those are the oldest rocks in the UK. You're like, wow, this is amazing. Like, but yeah, there's loads of different places you can go to, like across the Highlands of Scotland, and to think that each and every one of those has its own geological history, and some of them obviously have the same geological history because they're grouped together, but I just think it's madness. And that's why I thought, you know what, I'm just going to go about Scotland and make videos about different places and help people understand what geology and how geology shapes the planet today, like the rocks and that. So yeah.
In Skye, when you're, I always find on the bike when I'm coming back south, so we've been up to, is it the Kooring? What do they call that rock?
Kooring, yeah.
Kooring, up the top. So when you're heading back south, you come out of Portree and it's the big long road as you head south. I remember seeing, they look like a couple of pyramids, the big mountains that are just on the horizon, but they look like pyramids. like
Aye.
real defined, like a pyramid shape, like near Tyndrum, when you come out of Tyndrum
Yeah,
on the way to Glencoe. They look like that.
like that. Yeah, that's probably the granite, like the red coolings. Like, so when you
Right.
really look at them and you actually go up and look at the rock side, those are like a big magma chamber that formed, like, because of the partial melting, like the crust. Like at that point in time, you had this initial, like, magma chamber push into the crust that was fed by the opening of the Atlantic Ocean. Because as the two plates are moving away from each other, magma seeps up and then sits in the crust and cools there over geological time. But as that was cooling, and that's basic in composition, that forms a gabbro usually and turns into a gabbro, which is crystalline, it's coarse grain. But as that was doing so, right next to it, the crust got that hot that it melted. The rocks in around that area melted and formed this granite pluton, this granite magma chamber. And granite's very silica rich. It's sometimes pink, light pink in colour, like kind of has some quartz in there as well, like some whiter colours in it too. So the granite that makes up those hills that are shaped like kind of like, very rounded, like pyramid kind of shape, like, and the other hills are quite jaggy. That's like when that's exposed at the surface, because also you need to think about it as well. There's 2 kilometres worth of like rock that's been eroded away, like over the glacial periods over the last
above where it
that
is
have
now?
been above, yeah.
Jeez.
And
Wow.
this magma chamber fed the lavas, like the magma to the surface that erupted as lava originally. And you can see the lavas on Sky too. It's mental, like absolutely mental. But erosion and weather has obviously weathered them away. And the glaciers, interglacial periods, the glaciers have then cut through the valleys and shaped
Uh-huh.
the mountains and shaped the rocks. And obviously, gabbro kind of that forms a jagged kind of black coolings that weathers away differently compared to the granite, which is where your rounded, like kind of pyramidal, like kind of mountains, like are. It's honestly madness.
Wow.
And
That's
just to look
crazy,
at that
isn't
and
it?
think, yeah,
I often
that's
like
weird.
when I'm on my bike trips, like say over in the Swiss Alps, or I was just down in the French Alps last week. And when you look
Aye,
at these stunningly beautiful mountain ranges, when you're right up in these
wow.
Alps, and you just think to yourself, I mean, I understand that they've been formed by,
Mm-hmm.
basically glaciers and rock rubbing against rock over immense pressures and over long periods of time. But you just look at it and think, how? Just how has
Yeah,
that happened? You just can't fathom how
it's
all that happened.
madness. Yeah, honestly, absolutely madness.
And I was in Appalachia earlier
Mm-hmm.
this year. Over out in like Tennessee,
Yes,
North South
yeah.
Carolina, and I was told that mountain range there is the same one that's connected to in parts of Scotland. Is that right? They
It is,
used to be
yeah.
connected.
Yeah. Yeah, they used to be connected at one point, and that connection probably started breaking up. Like obviously when you had all this volcanism, like down the side of like Scotland, like related to that. But yeah, there used to be we used to be on this continent known as Laurentia, which included
Mm.
Greenland and America, North America. And we were all joined together like in around 450 million years ago. You had England that was on like Babylonia at the bottom, started moving towards us, towards the north, and it closed this old ocean. And as it did, it pushed like into the plate, subducted, like obviously the oceanic crust was subducted under the continental crust. And that was pushing up, like creating this mountain chain that was in the middle of Laurentia. Like you need to think of it in a way that like similar to like the process it's like creating the Alps today or the Himalayas today. Also the Indian plates moved up and pushed into the Eurasian plate, creating the Himalayas. Like this was happening back 450 million years ago to Scotland and to
Wow.
Laurentia and caused this mountain chain that forms like and you can see remnants of the mountain chain in Scotland and Greenland and in America, like
Mhm.
which is madness. Like it's so mental to think that they were once joined together
It's crazy, isn't it?
and then
That
it's been split apart.
yeah, you can almost not comprehend that. It's
But
yeah,
yeah,
mental. It's blimey.
but it happens over millions of years, and this is what I have to try to explain to people: is these processes take absolutely ages to
Yeah.
happen. It doesn't just happen overnight. And I think when geologists first started looking into it, they were just like, "Oh my goodness, like how's this work?" And they would have nightmares about it and wake up in the middle of the night screaming because they thought the crust was just going to go boom and
Uh-huh.
push over. Like, but no, you're fine. It's all good. Doesn't happen that fast.
You
So
might be
yeah,
able to dodge it, yeah.
yeah.
Cheers for that one too, Bob. Next one, Rob Elwin. Hi, Louisa. Have you ever poked molten lava with a stick?
No,
You were over in
can't get that
Iceland, though,
close
weren't you?
to it. I was over I was actually over last year, like, and I got to see like real lava coming out the ground. But I've been reposting my stuff on Facebook recently to do Iceland because I've scheduled quite a lot of posts like that I did last year, to this year, just to allow people that have just started following me, like, because my Facebook following is starting to creep up now, but to allow those new followers to see these videos that they've never seen before, like, you know, from last year. So yeah, the lava is hot. It's very hot. When you think about how hot a rock has to be to melt, it's ridiculously hot. It's coming out the ground at 1700 degrees Celsius. Wow. And that'll cool around 1200 degrees Celsius, you know. And as it cools, different minerals cool out the same, like, certain times, and it's very fine grained and crystalline. If you were to poke that with a wooden stick, the stick would catch fire, and then you would catch fire. And also, you can't get that close to it. You can stand maybe unless you were wearing a suit. Like, but you can maybe stand, like, I think I was like 5 meters away from it, 10 meters away from it, and it was boiling. You could feel it, like the heat from this lava flow. And the lava's slowly creeping up, like crystallize it, pushing like it all forward towards you, and you're just like, like, so I'm pointing at it, trying to explain to it. I'm trying to zoom in on my phone to record videos of it, and I'm just like, oh my goodness, I can't believe that this is in front of me. Like, that I'm feeling the heat from that. I wish I had marshmallows. But if you were doing it professionally, there's obviously what they do is they sample the lava, like, as soon as it comes out, and that's volcanologists, you know, like, they'll go out, they'll wear the heat suit, they can get a bit closer to it, and they'll have like this metal wall stick thing that they can grab a piece of lava out and then chuck it in a bucket of water, and it cools like very quickly. It cools into like this glass, and then they can take it away and analyze it and look at the mineralogy, look at the elements that's coming out of that specific volcano. Oh, it's pure zoomed out. Like,
yeah, it did, didn't it?
I don't know what happened there. That's pure. It's because I'm on my iPad, and my iPad just, like, see, when you're on Zoom, it just like kind of tries to concentrate on your head. I was sitting there like, oh wow. So yeah, like, it's just madness how this can, you know, come out the ground and be that hot. And that's how you get the formation of new rocks and new volcanic rocks, of course. Like that, those are the youngest rocks. Well, some of the youngest rocks that you know, come out the ground, because if it's coming out, and I've got a piece of it in my living room, I've actually got a few pieces of it. I kind of went home with maybe 20 pieces of it or something like that. It's ridiculous. Like, of this lava in my suitcase. And someone asked me as well at the campsite I was staying at, they were like, can you take the rocks home? And I was like, well, I don't actually know, and I'm not going to Google it either because I don't want to know the answer to it. Like,
ignorance is bliss.
I just took them home anyway, but I didn't get stopped at the airport, you know. But some people would be a bit funny. They'd be like, you'd say to them, oh, I've got a volcanic bomb, like, because there's these formations that sometimes I know. Don't say that at the airport. That's something that would form in Tenar Reef, right? Because you get different types of magmas and volcanoes and different types of lavas that spew out at different plate tectonic settings, so it gets proper complicated. Anyway, a volcanic bomb is like one that just goes whee, and lands somewhere.
How's it go again?
It goes whee, and like, it'll land somewhere, right? And, like, you know, you get geologists picking them up, being like, oh my god, I've got a volcanic bomb. And I remember one of my lecturers told me when I was at uni, saying that he was saying, oh, I Tenerife, I told them that it was a volcanic bomb, and they didn't, you know, they were like, bomb? But no, not that kind of bomb. I'm a geologist. And they're just like, oh my goodness me. So yeah, you have to be careful what you say around these people.
Aye.
So,
yeah, sometimes they don't have a sense of humour at the airports, for
like,
sure.
And I'm like, no. Well, he was like, sorry, it wasn't me. But I never said anything. I just shoved them all in my suitcase, like, put them in, like, amongst my clothes to protect them, and took them home. And now the youngest rock I own, and I always say that to people, I'm like, this rock is a year old. This one's 60 million years old. And they're just looking at me like, what? Or this is 300 million years old. And people just honestly are like amazed at the fact that we have rocks, like, you know, of various ages, even across Scotland, you know. It's class.
I was going to ask about Tenerife because I go there fairly often to do bike tours and stuff.
Aye.
And when you go up to the top of like near TD, you know, on the way up to TD, and the whole landscape changes. It's like what I imagine the surface of Mars to look like. It's incredible up there. Absolutely beautiful.
Brilliant. I remember going at Mount TD in like 2011. I've only ever been to Tenerife once. It's on the list to go back to, actually. Like, I wanted to get myself there next year at one point for a wee holiday as well as a wee geology kind of adventure. But I went there with my ex, and it was quite funny because the tour lady there was the bus tour lady that was talking and stuff about the volcano, and I was still at uni at this point, 2011, and she's like, "You're not allowed to take any of the rocks, blah blah blah," and I'm just like at the top of this volcano, sneaking pieces of rock in my bag. And then we got back to the hotel, and I'm emptying my bag, and my ex is looking at me, and he's like, "Did you take them from the volcano?" No, they're just from the beach. And he's like, "You took them from the volcano, didn't you?" And I was like, "Yeah." I had to get them. Yeah, I want them. So yeah,
you had to pay for excess baggage to bring home your rocks.
Yeah, I don't know. They were quite light because like TD is erupted out quite a lot of different rock types, like especially I think the last eruption was like more than 100 years ago though. But when it does so, it erupts out like quite a lot of gas and ash, like, and it forms like pyroclastic flows, like, which is like a lot lighter than natural. Well, lava is light. See, when you look at like fresh lava, even from Iceland, and you're holding it and you're like, because I thought my suitcase was going to go up then, but it didn't. It's not heavy. It's quite light. It's got bubbles in it, gas bubbles. So yeah, they don't have gas anymore.
Yeah,
like, so basically, you can imagine in the magma chamber the thing that's feeding the volcano, which is kilometers like wide, and that's what feeds the magma to the surface. That's got gases in it. And obviously, when it reaches the surface and the rock crystallizes, the gases are released, but it forms little wee cavities in the rock known as vesicles. And that's how it has these bubbles. So it doesn't actually have gas in it anymore. Obviously, the gas is released into the atmosphere, but it's still, the remnants of the rock. Like, it just forms these bubbles. I wish I had a piece to show you, but I'm in the gym. Well, I'm in the cafe in the gym.
I never thought rocks would be this interesting. Like, why weren't you my teacher at school? I could have had
That's it.
I genuinely find it really interesting, and yeah, it just
wasn't.
wasn't.
Sit and listen.
Yeah, no, it's stunning to listen about how stuff's formed and how it all happens. I find it fascinating. Right, we better crack on with questions.
Oh yeah, no, sorry.
I think we've got about 15 minutes, haven't we, before you need to go. Right, next one, Fentour, Martin. Hi, Louisa and Bruce. Hope all is good for you both. Anyway, my favourite subject at school was geography, with a good dose of geology, especially glaciation. So, my question, read the UK and its geological features. What are your 3 favourite geological locations in the UK and why?
Oh my goodness me. Right, okay. So Glencoe is one of my favourite ones because when you drive through Glencoe, this landscape's absolutely out of this world. When it's a sunny day, of course, and it's not cloudy and you can't see the mountains. But it's just the whole idea of that used to be an old volcanic, that used to be like a volcano, like back in the day. Like, there's like lava and stuff that's spewed out that's at the surface. And what's happened is the very last eruptions, like that were 420 million years ago, like when the lava evacuated the magma chamber, the whole thing collapsed in on itself and formed a caldera. And the caldera, you can actually see, like, if you were to analyse and map the whole area geologically and geology terms, like, you can map out the caldera because it's not really as noticeable at the surface, but a caldera is basically a cauldron that forms, like, basically when it all collapses in on itself. And it's just madness because you can go to different areas in Glencoe and find the magma chamber, because obviously it collapsed in itself, all the lava that's collapsed in itself that's been crystallised, that's now sitting next to the magma chamber that once fed the lava to the surface, and you can go see the boundary between them both in Glencoe, and I'm like, this is brilliant. Wow. This is absolutely brilliant. And then I would say my second area is probably, well, these aren't in any particular order, these are just nice areas that I like. I love the landscapes in the Northwest Islands, especially in Assynt. And you're driving through and you can see some beautiful geological features, and you have your oldest rocks in Assynt, like at the bottom that you're listing nice, and then you have these random mountains that pop up in Assynt, like, and you look at the mountains and they've got horizontal layers, and that's your Torridonian sandstones. And to think that the Torridonian sandstones and the Luisa gneiss have a gap in geological time of like 1.8 billion years is madness to me. Like the Luisa gneiss is a very fucked up, complicated rock, right? It's a high grade metamorphic rock, and it's been buried several times and brought back to the surface. And it represents an old, really old piece of oceanic crust that can be found in Canada and stretched kind of across that way. Like, but obviously it's been split apart because of recent geological, well, I say recent, 60 million years ago, like geological kind of forces like that have pulled the crust apart and formed the Atlantic Ocean. Like, but basically, this Luisa gneiss is so old and so fucked up and so beautiful to look at. It's like one of my favourite rods. And then you have this gap in time where it's been, brought to the surface a few times, buried, brought to the surface again through erosion and stuff and uplift. And then you've had sedimentary rocks sat on top of them, basically put on top of them and deposited on top of them horizontally. And when you look at the mountains and the landscape in Ascent, it's so beautiful because you have those horizontal layers of these mountains, and you have Luisa gneiss at the base, and you're just like, wow, like this is cool. And you also have the Moyne Thrust Fault in Ascent that you can actually go touch at Knocken Crag. I don't know if you've ever been there, like in the Northwest Highlands.
Where's that?
So Ascent's like it's like close to like just north of Ullapool.
Okay.
So you have Loch Ascent. And like you drive up like the road towards Darnest, but there's like a cut off towards. Have you ever been to Achmelvik Bay? Like the beach, it looks really pretty and it's blue and it's like gorgeous. I mean, there's several beaches up there that look pretty.
Yeah.
Loch Ascent and that whole area of Ascent is absolutely beautiful. I'm just like, wow, this is like this wild. So Ascent's up that way, but you have your Moyne Thrust Fault just north of Ullapool. And you can go and touch the Moyne Thrust Fault, and that's when you've had like older rocks thrust on top of younger ones because the two plates collided with each other, and it just pushed and caused all these rocks to crumble and stack on top of each other. This is happening like kilometres under the ground, though it's not happening at the surface. It's like deep within the ground, and they can simulate this. It's mental.
Is this still happening now to this day?
No, not in Scotland. No,
all the movement.
I mean, it's
stopped?
happening in the Alps,
right.
But it stopped. Yeah, eventually you get to the point where, when the subduction zone finally like dies off, and you have that continent collide with the continent, like it stops pushing and kind of settles, and then also erosion, equals out, and then it'll start up somewhere else. Plate tectonics are constantly, I say constantly, but they're always changing over geological time. Obviously, it's not going to change like over the next 100 years or so, but they're constantly moving on the go. The crust is recycling like over and over again. Like the Earth doesn't get any bigger; the Earth stays the same, and it just subducts at subduction zones and forms new crust at oceanic, like mid-oceanic ridges where you've got like magma seeping up and the plates are going away from each other, and then it will subduct under. Yeah, it's madness. I still think to this day, how the hell did, and they've only recently discovered that in like the 60s or something like that, or 70s. I can't remember. But it's just madness. But sorry.
So I often think to myself, when they find out, they find new things and they didn't realise that all these things were going on. I often think to myself, well, what else is happening that we don't know about then? Like, what are we going to find out in the next 1,000 years? Honestly, or whatever it is?
It makes you think, because there's a lot of controversy when it comes to geology as well, because a lot of people also do certain research, like in certain things, and you can't tell everything from what you're, you don't know for sure if that's true or not, in certain cases, and you're just like, wow, this is madness, and you get geologists arguing with geologists over certain, theories, and I'm like, oh my goodness me.
One expert against another expert. Yeah,
basically.
No one wants to be proved wrong.
No, I know.
All right, next one, Louise Worsfold. Good to see the old fossil has got someone in to talk who understands fossils. Thanks very much, Louise. Cheers. How far back does Bruce go? Very good, very good. Fracking. Discuss. Have we really stolen Greta's future, or has any of your work brought you into the engineering side of building development? And when is LA going to have the big one? Okay, right. So have we really? That's topical. You might not want to get involved with that. Have we really stolen Greta's future? Your work's brought you into the engineering side of building development. That's what you did that was your job, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So let's go with LA then. When is LA going to have the big one? When's this big earthquake?
I don't know what that means. As in the earthquake, right? Okay, I don't know. You can never really predict stuff like that. Like obviously they have seismic technology that will allow you to track what the earthquakes are doing. But every now and then, obviously, it's like a strike slip fault. So two plates are next to each other and they're sliding past each other. Like, you know, they're doing that. And every now and then it will just slide and slip. I don't know. I couldn't tell you. Like, there's no really certain way of saying. Like, it just builds up pressure eventually and just slips. So that happened in Scotland at one point. But yeah, the first bit was about fracking and stuff. And obviously, fracking's banned in Scotland. Like, I don't really know if it's banned in England. And I know that they do it like across the world, like in certain areas. And it's a very controversial, you know, subject because obviously you're fracking and you're cracking, you're fracturing like the shale rock, which is the rock that forms oil in the first place to get it out. But again, I don't know like enough about what's going on worldwide to actually say or give you an opinion on it because it's not something I know enough about. I just know how they do fracking. Aye.
We'll body swerve. We'll body swerve that.
Yeah, we'll just kind of move around that.
Next one, Declan McGlone. I just read this as we were going through the previous question. I apologise for this. What do you call a fake Irish stone?
I don't know. Is that a joke? Is that such...
It is. A shamrock.
I don't get it. A shamrock? All right, okay, I get it now. I'm really bad when it comes to geology jokes, honestly. Like, I just don't...
Really?
I'm just like,
I thought you'd know this one. I thought you'd know it already.
I'd get comments, even when I was single and stuff, and people would know I was a geologist. They'd always try swear, you know, they'd be like, what was it, like something to do with pressure and diamonds or something like that, or we should go on are you like a diamond because I'd love to date you, date me as in like going out with me, but actually date the diamond as an age the diamond. And I'm like, diamonds are all the same age, mate. Like I'd respond by saying stuff like that. Yeah, like most diamonds that they all form at this. Like, so all the diamonds that have been brought up to the surface and stuff, like they all like date like the block that they've been brought up to the surface in, like they're from deep within the mantle and they all formed in the mantle because the mantle's high pressure, like very high pressure, and that's diamonds love high pressure. So they formed like within that mantle, like, and they've been obviously pushed up. Like, it's a bit mental. Sorry, my partner's just came in, he's gone to train in the gym and he's like, oh yeah. He's like standing there.
Are you still there? Yeah.
I know I'm here. So yeah, that's why I was looking up at that. I'm like,
no worries. Right, next one, Dave Ramsey. Evening all. Having ridden in Romania, Italy, Greece, Georgia, amongst others, you get knife edge ridges with sheer sides on both sides, but very few in Scotland. How come? So how come you don't get these knife edge ridges in Scotland, or very few of them? I can't pronounce that. Is it Anachigic? Anachigic?
Oh, I don't know. What did they say? They are like knife ridge. I'm trying to think of what a knife ridge would look like because
you get knife edge ridges with sheer sides on both sides, but very few in Scotland. What do you think of Scotland being awarded a golden spike on the Garvilich Isles? Good or bad in terms of tourists and the Insta army trampling all over it? He's got about 3 questions, all rammed into one.
So the one at the end, like to do with the Garvilich, that's obviously talking about the recent discovery that they've made there, which is like they've came across rocks that indicate and go towards go towards? That doesn't even make sense. Like basically they've done research in that area and there's evidence there for snowball Earth, which, you know, back like during a period of time they think the Earth was covered in ice, like the whole Earth was covered in ice, and evidence of that's found in Scotland, which is madness because, you know, like it's not madness. I think there was a snowball Earth, but I don't know how that's going to impact the tourist industry. I don't know if it'll, like, you know, mean that there's going to be more visitors to that area because people want to see this rock, or maybe not. I don't know. Like, what was the other one? Knife ridge. Like, I honestly don't know what it means. I mean, when you think about it, obviously each place like erodes differently depending on the different conditions and stuff. So obviously the way that Scotland looks, there might be ridges and stuff in Scotland, but they've been kind of eroded away, like, and they just look a little bit different because usually ridges form when you have fault planes moving, like up and down, and you have normal fault planes moving and reverse fault planes, and then you have strike slip fault planes. So as they're moving about, that can change, you know, the way that things look. like, but also like form like different. If you've got ridges forming, like, and you've got extension of the crust, and you've got like crust, the two sides of the crust are moving away from each other and pulling apart. That'll thin the crust out and form these ridges. So it just depends on where you are. Scotland might not have as many that are as noticeable because they've been eroded away for the last glaciations that have happened over the last 2.6 million years. So I don't know if that answers this question, but you never know.
I never knew I was going to find geology so blooming interesting. It's crazy. Well, I'm going to have to dig more into it. When we spoke about in terms of tourists, the impact on Scotland in terms of tourists, well, you're going to have an impact on that.
Oh yeah, definitely. Because obviously, I mean, there's tour companies that work all over Scotland, like, and do take people to already these beautiful, interesting places, but they speak more about the actual history of Scotland rather than the geological history of Scotland. So, like, you know, my tours are more in like the geological history, like, than the natural history. So, yeah, like, it's going to have maybe a little impact on certain areas and stuff. But I mean, I'm not taking like 50 people with me. I usually take groups of like between like 2 and 7 people around Scotland with me. It's just another tour company that's promoting like geology in a way. Thank you. Like, sorry, he's ordered me like a coffee.
No
and he's
don't worry about it.
he's
I'll
like,
let
"Do you
you
want
go
a
in a sec.
coffee?" No, I know. He's like, "I'll probably go train in the gym after this." I'm like, "Oh," and then I need to get back for the dogs. But he's ordered me a wee coffee, which is quite nice, you know.
Nice one.
Like,
Nice one. Well, I'll not keep you any longer. So,
no
if
worries.
people want to find out more about you on your socials, or if they want to come and join you and do one of your tours with you, where do they go? What do they do?
Basically, yeah, I'm known as Scottish Geologist across most social media accounts, except from Twitter, because Twitter wouldn't let me use the same amount of characters that make up Scottish Geologist. So I'm known as Scot Geologist, but no one hardly uses Twitter anyway. Right, so yeah, you can go onto my website as well, which is www.scottishgeologist.co.uk, and register for the updates if you're interested in a tour, or you can email me separately at louisa@scottishgeologist.co.uk. And I do private tours, I do group tours. Like, I was doing evening tours for a while during the summer, but they're now going to turn into afternoon tours because it's obviously getting dark at night.
Scotland,
so you can't really, I know, you can't really take people out in the middle of the dark and look, here's a rock. But they've been really popular this year. It's just been something I've been doing on the site. I still don't do it full time. It's still something that I'm doing, like, you know, gradually and building it up into a really good business. And I want to just educate people with it. I just want to show that there's just so much more out there than just a rock. And the history of Scotland's geological history is mad. And there's so much in Scotland that you just never knew was there. Like, you could be walking over rocks that are 3 billion years old, 1 billion years old, you wouldn't even know it. And people just find it interesting and fascinating when they, you know, listen to me or they come on one of my wee tours. So
I love the passion you've got for it. I really do. You know, it makes the whole subject come alive, and it makes it really interesting. You want to find out more about it. It is addictive. It is addictive.
I just
folks,
thought it was funny. Sorry.
Sorry, no problem.
I thought it was funny that time that I came across your page was when I think you tagged me in something, and I watched the video over and over again because I thought it was brilliant. Because you were like, Scottish Geologist, there's this lassie that makes videos about rocks, and right. Scottish Geologist, and you would love it here. And I was pure watching the video, and I was like, holy fucking shit.
That was down in the French Alps. Yeah, that was down in the French Alps.
God.
All the lads that I was taking away on tour, they were like, "What are you talking about?" I was like, "But they've all checked it out now." Yeah, they've all checked out your account now. Folks, I will leave all of Louisa's links, all the socials and the website and everything like that. I'll leave all that down below. So if you're watching the vid, make sure you check them out. If you're listening to the podcast, have a look at the show notes and make sure you give it a like, a follow, a subscribe. And if you're up in God's country, back up in Scotland, and you fancy going on one of our tours, get yourself booked up.
Amazing.
Right.
Oh, thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Are there any shout outs? Anyone you want to say hello to before we go? Feel free.
No, I'll just say bye.
All good. Right. No, yeah, Louisa,
okay.
Thank you very much for coming on. I really appreciate your company for the evening. Loved it. It's been awesome.
Thank you. I'll see you
folks.
soon.
Hope you've enjoyed this one as well. Keep doing your thing. Look after those that you love. Get on out there whenever you can. But most importantly, live your life. Woo-ha!